Welcome to Relationship Exposed. In today's video, I wish I could tell you it all shattered in one explosive moment, that there was a loud argument, a dramatic revelation, something cinematic. But the reality? The end crept in like fog, soft, quiet, almost respectful in its arrival. Not the kind of collapse you feel shaking beneath your feet. It was subtler, a slow erosion of warmth and attention, until all that was left was a bed too cold and a silence too loud. Greg and I had been married for 15 years. On paper, everything was perfect. He was successful, driven, respected, the kind of man mothers hoped their daughters would marry. And for a time, he was everything I wanted too. He used to touch me with purpose, eyes trailing down my body like he was reading poetry. But that night, the night everything truly changed, I lay beside him in the same silk nightgown I wore when we were still new. It was black, low-cut, his favorite. Back then, I would wear it, and he couldn't keep his hands off me. But now, he slept with his back turned, his breath slow and deep, lost in a world that didn't include me. I reached out and let my fingers graze his arm, hoping for something. A twitch, a stir, a sign that I still mattered. But he didn't move. The ceiling fan spun in slow circles above us, humming with more life than our marriage. That moment, that silence, that was when I truly understood how far we'd drifted. Greg hadn't become cruel or abusive. He wasn't unfaithful. In fact, he still did the right things. Birthdays remembered, gifts bought, bills paid. But he had forgotten something essential. He forgot that I was still a woman with desires, not just a wife with duties. And worse, I had forgotten too. I kept up with my body, my health, my looks. People still told me I looked good for my age. Yoga, clean eating, the occasional facial. But when your husband looks at you like you're just part of the furniture, compliments from strangers lose their glow. That illusion fully shattered on our 15th wedding anniversary. He gave me diamond earrings, stunning, expensive, perfect, and they meant nothing, because it wasn't the gift that mattered, it was how it was given, like crossing an item off a checklist. Within an hour, he was asleep on the couch, tie loosened, some documentary murmuring in the background. Meanwhile, I was in the kitchen, sipping champagne alone, wearing that same silk nightgown with nothing underneath. I'd even lit candles. He didn't even look at me. I cried in the bathroom that night, not out of rage but out of something sadder. I felt foolish, like a teenager waiting by the phone, begging for scraps of attention. The next morning, over brunch, I told my best friend Rosa. She didn't gasp or clutch her pearls. She laughed, a soft, knowing laugh. "Honey, I know a guy," she said with a sly smile. "I'm not hiring an escort." I rolled my eyes. "He's not an escort," she replied. "He's in the business of making women feel good, professionally." I raised an eyebrow. Rosa leaned in, like she was sharing a forbidden secret. "His name is Dante Blaze." "That sounds like a firework," I scoffed. She pulled out her phone, typed in his name, and slid it across the table. I should have looked away, should have shut it down, but curiosity, especially when you're starving for something more, is a seductive thing. I watched, and it wasn't what I expected. This wasn't some oily, over-sexualized performer. There was something about the way he moved, the way he touched, the way he looked at the women, like they were art, like they mattered. I closed the tab after 10 minutes, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Him. It wasn't about sex. Not really. It was about being seen. That night, lying next to Greg's indifferent body, I slipped in headphones and watched another clip. Just one. Just to feel something. I hated how alive it made me feel. I hated how pathetic I felt afterward. And yet, it was the first time in years I felt anything. I began dreaming about him. Not lustful dreams, tender ones. Dreams where someone asked me how I was, where someone reached out just to hold me. A week later, Rosa saw me, really saw me, and said, "You can't stop thinking about him, can you?" "I'm not that kind of woman. Maybe just this once. You should be." She invited me to a private gallery. Dante would be there. I told myself I wouldn't go. But that night, I stood in front of my closet, fingers grazing over a red dress Greg hadn't noticed in 5 years. Tight, flattering, not obscene, but deliberate. The gallery buzzed with wine glasses and hushed flirtation, and then, there he was, Dante, not in leather or chains, in a tailored black suit, drinking wine with grace. Our eyes met. He didn't smile. He watched. Like I was a mystery he wanted to unfold. "Are you happy?" he asked, voice low. I shook my head. "No, not for a long time." He handed me a card. "If you ever want to feel seen again, call me." I didn't call him, not right away, but the card stayed in my purse like a lucky charm. Every time Greg ignored me, every silent dinner, every brushed-off compliment, I found myself brushing that card with my fingertips. Dante Blaze. I hated how often I thought about him. I hated that I didn't hate it. Then one night, after Greg muttered a half-hearted hey and disappeared into the den, I opened my phone. "It's Clara from the gallery." His reply came fast, simple, charged. And slowly, we began texting. But he never crossed a line, never sent photos, never suggested anything improper. He asked me about books, music, dreams, real dreams. When he called, I heard that same slow, rich voice, measured, intentional. He listened. I told him things I hadn't told anyone, that Greg hadn't kissed me on the lips in months, that our intimacy had turned into a chore, that I felt like a ghost haunting my own home. "You accepted it to survive," he said, "but you're allowed to live." When he invited me to coffee, just coffee, I said yes. I wore no makeup, just jeans and a soft sweater. I didn't want to impress, I wanted to be real. He smiled when he saw me. We talked, we laughed, and when our fingers brushed, reaching for a napkin, I felt something snap inside me. We walked afterward. At his car, he said, "You're not ready yet, but when you are, no guilt, no shame, just truth." I kissed him, once, lightly. When I got home, I didn't wait for Greg to come to bed. I didn't pretend anymore. A few days later, Greg left for another business trip. I stood in the doorway and watched his car disappear. Then I texted Dante. "I don't want coffee this time." His reply, "Come over." I shook as I rang the bell. He opened the door. No smile. Just eyes that saw me. Wine, candles, music. Time slowed down. When he touched me, it was reverent. When he kissed me, it was like the first breath after surfacing from deep water. I won't share the details. Not out of shame, but because some things deserve to stay sacred. That night, I felt alive. Not like someone's wife, not like an accessory, but like a woman, worthy of worship. I woke up in his bed with the morning light warming my skin. Peaceful. For the first time in years, I didn't feel guilt. I felt light. "You didn't run," he whispered. "No," I smiled. I didn't. But I couldn't stay forever. I had a life to confront. That afternoon, I returned to my house, walked through the rooms like a guest, opened the drawer with my silk lingerie, still untouched. I sat on the tub's edge and realized, I can't go back to sleep, not after waking up. Greg came home that night, kissed my cheek absently, went to the bedroom. "I slept with someone else," I said. He froze, stared. "Wait, what?" "I had an affair, and I'm not sorry." He looked shattered. He sat down, quiet. "Is this about sex?" I laughed, softly, brokenly. "No, Greg, it's about everything." He rubbed his temples. "You could have talked to me." "I did. You didn't listen." I expected a fight, but all he did was nod. "I guess I thought we were fine," he said. And that was the problem. That night, I packed a small bag, rented a studio apartment, just mine. No, I didn't run to Dante, I ran to me. And every candle I lit, every sip of wine, it was for myself. Eventually, I met Dante for coffee again, told him I left. "You woke me up," I said. "No," he said, taking my hand. "You were already awake, I just said it was okay." We saw each other a few more times, sometimes intimately, sometimes just as two people who shared something rare. He wasn't my forever, he was my turning point. Today, I live a quieter life, simpler, happier. I keep my old wedding ring in a box. No anger, no bitterness. Greg gave me comfort. Dante gave me fire. And I gave myself the freedom to feel again. And I will never apologize for that. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an episode. Thank you for watching Relationship Exposed.